Hey, Roanoke. Oh my God, this crowd is amazing. I mean, I feel the spirit. I have felt good all day today. Like normally I get a little nervous, a little anxious, get a little anxiety. I've got like none. And it's because of you. It's because of you. Now, I gotta admit something. I wasn't at the first Women's March last year in Washington, D.C. In fact, I wasn't at any Women's March anywhere. Not because I didn't support or believe or love the idea of women from every walk of life, black, brown, white, trans, young, old, or as I like to say, experienced. Gay, bi, queer, gender non-conforming, straight, all of us coming together. That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. And I'm a Libra. I don't know if everyone follows the horoscopes. Libras, all my Libras in the house. I'm a Libra, so you know that we love a beautiful thing. We love beauty. But I didn't go, and I'm gonna be honest. I didn't go because I didn't know if this was for me. You see, I'm a feminist. I was raised that way by my mama, my mother, Danielle Belton, who believed that there was nothing a woman couldn't do if she didn't put her mind to it. She taught me about fairness and equality. She taught me to be proud of who I am and of the people that I came from. She taught me to love others. And if someone didn't love me back, well, that sounds like a personal problem, doesn't it? That really didn't have anything to do with me, because I'm amazing. But the most important lesson my mother imparted on me was one that has stuck with me my entire life. I am not special. Even though I like to think of myself that way, I think I'm pretty awesome. I think I'm great. But in my heart, I know I'm not. I'm not better than anyone. I'm just lucky. And let me explain this by explaining my mother. My mother was the eldest child in a family of 9. Her parents were sharecroppers in Schaffner, Arkansas, near a town called Newport. My mother grew up living in the segregated Jim Crow South in a 4-room shack with a dirt floor off of a plantation where she, her mother, father, and 7 brothers and 1 sister worked to keep the family going, where they chopped and picked cotton, where my grandfather took a job at a nearby oil mill against the protestations of the landowner who feared that if my grandfather took another job, he wouldn't be able to get the cotton crop in on time. My grandparents promised they would get the crop in, and they did, because my mother and her siblings got out in that field and helped and chopped and picked that cotton. My mother's family was poor, not because they weren't hard workers. They were willing to do whatever it took to get off that plantation and to eventually become homeowners. But because of a series of misfortunes beyond their control that had everything to do with race had befallen them. Their story was the story of a lot of black families back then, of forgotten promises that went away at the end of Reconstruction in the South, of land stolen from them, of jobs denied, of poor schooling and few options. Where her grandfather, my great-grandfather, who had been born a slave, was willing to pay a poll tax just so he could exercise his right to vote, even though he really couldn't afford it. Where white doctors repeatedly misdiagnosed my mother when she was a sickly child, claiming she had polio and other ailments, when in actuality she had rheumatic fever. It wasn't until her parents took her to see the town's sole African-American doctor that she was properly diagnosed. But by then, the disease had done its damage and left her with permanently weakened heart valves, a condition she still receives treatment for to this very day. Still, despite the obstacles in her way, My mother knew that there had to be something better than the only life she'd ever known. You see, my mother had a drive. It was given to her by her mother, my grandmother, who at 89 years old is still with us. Hopefully she'll turn 90 come this spring. And my grandmother is a survivor. So my mother is a survivor. She is someone who has seen the worst life has had to offer, of poverty, of racism, of segregation, of pain and disappointment. And she looked that life in the face and she said, not me. You're not meant for me. My mother wanted something bigger for herself, for her future. So in the 1960s, when she was all of 5 feet tall and 95 pounds wet, she went to college. She went to historically black college in Arkansas, Philander Smith. My mother did not have money. She did not have a plan. She didn't have a scholarship. She had no help from her family or friends because they were struggling themselves. She did not have an example of how to do it. But she got up and she did it anyway. She, as they say, made a way out of no way. Like her mother before her, like her grandmother before her, like her aunts and cousins. She faced not having enough food or money for classes. She worked the whole time she was in school, and she made it. She graduated because she had to. She was a black woman from the Jim Crow South. She knew the stakes because she lived them her entire life. She graduated from that college and became an educator. She met my father, fell in love, and together they created a world of their own, a better world for their daughters, their 3 girls, where we would grow up safe, knowing we were loved and that our lives mattered. My mother told me and my sisters these stories about her life, about choosing whether to buy deodorant or food, about her whole life fitting in one tiny suitcase when she went off to Philander Smith, about her work with civil rights activist Daisy Bates, where they tried to integrate a school for the deaf so a black child could learn. She told me these stories, not because she wanted me to feel bad for her, not because she thought I needed to prove myself and pull myself up by some proverbial bootstraps. She told me this because it was too hard. The road to her success and security, of becoming a school teacher, of moving to St. Louis, it had been so traumatic, so backbreaking, so degrading. She didn't want to see anyone else go through it. She didn't want this life of poverty, discrimination, and pain for her daughters. But she didn't want this life for anyone's daughters. My mother, she made it out. She got her American dream. But how many people did she know who never made it? Who never saw that promised land, no matter what they did or how mightily they struggled against oppression? My mother made it out, but her mind stayed on those left behind. Because my mother told me she wasn't special. She was lucky. Anything could have happened to stop her. She almost ran out of money. She almost got put out of school. One false move and her dream would have died, been deferred, shriveled up on the vine. She was lucky, but so many people are not. There is no real safety net in America. People are 1 to 2 paychecks or one illness or ailment away from poverty. A new study came out last year that found the median wealth for Black Americans will be 0 in a little more than 3 decades if nothing changes. Black women are also 3 to 4 times more likely to die of pregnancy-related complications than white women. This isn't on accident. We live in a system that is set up for people to fail, a society run by and protected for the lucky, those born to wealth and privilege, those with lighter skin, those with more money and more opportunities. Even though I've faced my fair share of obstacles in life, I know that I'm among the lucky. I didn't have to pay for college. I wanted for nothing as a child. Hell, I shouldn't even be here. That's how lucky I am. Because my mom wasn't supposed to have kids because of her heart condition. A condition that was created by doctors' discrimination and racism. But she did. She survived each one of her children's stressful, turbulent births. I was lucky to have her as my mother. A woman who looked at me and my sisters and in her heart pledged to us, there may have been no plan for me, but I have a plan for you because I love you and I believe in you. And you are worthy of love and respect and protection and guidance as anyone else. And you shall learn from my mistakes, and you will not suffer the fools I suffered. You will not have to kick down that door because I kicked it down for you. But I won't tell you what to do once you enter that door. And I won't judge you for the choices that you make because I did this work. I laid this groundwork for you to be you and to do you. And know this, that my love is never ending. I wish my mother could be here to see this. She is a lifelong supporter of women's rights. She's 72 today. She'll be 73 in April. But my mother doesn't know me anymore. Because in 2013, she was diagnosed with dementia. The disease has robbed her of her memories. All that remains are her kind eyes and loving smile that she turns towards 3 daughters and a husband she no longer recognizes. But even in the midst of this disease, I can feel her love. She loved me. She built a world around me and my sisters that was full of possibilities. And when I had my bad days, my mother would dry my tears, tell me to get back up and go get it. Go get it, that world that sought to take the smile off my face and the shine from my eyes. The world that wanted to put us in our place. But who was the world to tell us our place? That's what I learned from my mother. I make my place. You make your place. We make the world. Because we are women. Because we have had the love of a woman. And women make this world. Still, I questioned last year during the first Women's March, was this the right place for me? Would I be respected? Would my mother's story be respected? Was this for Black women, Latinx women, Asian women, trans women, women who don't conform, who defy definition, who aren't white but know what time it is, who see the world for what it is, who see the world for what it is and have been trying to warn us that you should listen to us and our stories, our plight, our struggles, our successes. And if you ask me why I questioned, ask yourself, if you were a short, chubby Black woman from St. Louis, Missouri, would you trust it? Now, I didn't grow up in the Jim Crow South, but I did grow up in one of the most segregated cities in the United States. Would you believe it? Initially and without reservation, Black women, women of color, women who can't fit neatly into the box of a racialized society. I wanted to believe, but I still didn't go. One bad thing my wonderful mother gave me was cynicism. When life has actively been trying to beat you down and kill you, force you into a box for the bulk of it, as life had done to my mother, you question a lot of things. You don't trust a lot. You cling to what you know, family, friends, but institutions, movements, maybe they're for someone else. Someone even more lucky than you are. But I've decided that on this one, Mommy, I love you, but girl, you're wrong. There's nothing wrong with taking a risk and reaching across and out to other women from different walks of life from different backgrounds and giving you both the opportunity to learn from each other, to grow together, to defy the binds of society wishes to put us both in. We can get there together and make this world not just a place for the lucky, but for all of us. That's why I say, support women, believe women. But that's not just for women who fit a specific type. It's not just for women who check the right boxes, who are perfect voices, or perfect victims, or have perfect platforms, who fit some narrow vision of what womanhood and sisterhood is. Support Black women, believe trans women, invest in the sisterhood by expanding it, not by allowing fear to shrink it, not by allowing ego and emotion to destroy it. Our power lies within each other, and we need each other more than ever. Now, for most of human history, women have been relegated to secondary status. For most of American history, Black people have been oppressed, controlled, and discriminated against. Our purpose, according to the patriarchal white supremacist society, was narrow. We were meant to be there for everyone but ourselves. We were there to be the feed upon which others ate and got fat. But those days, no more. Today, we embrace a radical love of ourselves and each other, a love once denied, a radical love that celebrates us finding our true hearts and true purposes, where we can come together and drown out those who wish to control us, who wish to diminish us, who wish to relegate us to the dregs of society, who wish to push us into the darkness. But we will not be moved. We will keep pushing for the light, and that light will remain on our faces, and we will come together for ourselves, for each other, for our friends, for our sisters, for our daughters, for our neighbors, and for people we've never met and will never know. We will come together with a love unsurpassed and unmatched by the hate that wishes to extinguish it. And out of that love, we will all be free. Thank you. Thank you so much.